Hi, everybody. This is, of course, Kara and Delight, and Cassandra's here too, and we are your training team. And we have with us also Anna with SDS, the Living Well Grant Manager, and Kat, who is our care coordinator liaison. We just wanted to welcome you to this month's session of our info share for care coordinators. As always, we'll post a recording of it on our YouTube training channel for you to see later, or invite folks who couldn't participate to see it. And we'll issue an email to those of you who attend that gives you credit for 1 hour CEH. Okay, so that you'll want to save that email. Usually we put in the title of it, save this email. We don't issue certificates separately for these because for whatever reason the certificate download didn't work out. But that's fine. We're glad you're here. You know how to interact with us. Please use the questions or the chat area. However it appears on your screen as a participant to interact with us. And we do have our agenda showing right now, so we're just going to go by that. As usual, if we don't take up the whole time with our session, we'll, it's okay to end a little bit early, but it doesn't mean that you won't get an hour CEH. It'll be an hour equivalent, so don't worry about that part. But anyway, nice to see everybody here. We have up at the top things to watch for. So what should we watch for? We started our provider info share session, which I'm hoping everybody understands that it's not a replacement for any of the other sessions we do, or any of our provider association meetings at all. It's its own meeting. It's for all provider types, care coordinators included. We are not offering CEH for it, though. It's to develop a bridge of communication for our entire provider base so that we get to interact with more people and provide some more training for our provider types outside of care coordination. But you're certainly welcome to come to that. Our first one was a recording because it was done on Alaska Day, and it was actually kind of great because we learned that we could post a recording and have people interact with it. So thank you for checking that out. If you were one of the ones that checked out our short record, it's about 8 minutes long, that initial one. But it's on November 15th, and that is our next one. The public health emergency, as you probably already know, but as a reminder, it has been extended with Appendix K flexibilities extended to April 1st, 2023. So this means that plans that have a start date of April 1st or earlier can file an Appendix K short form for support plan renewal. So plans with a start date of April 1st or earlier can do that. So the other flexibilities are continued, and unless otherwise notified, SDS may or may not choose to end certain of the flexibilities ahead of that end date. We would let everybody know via e-alert and communication ahead of time if that was going to happen, and there hasn't really been talk of any of that happening. I just like to mention it in case it comes to pass that some of our flexibilities aren't useful to people. It's actually more so the opposite. Most our flexibilities have been made permanent with new regs, which we'll reach out and do some training upon, a little bit later on as the months pass. And most of our flexibilities that we have ongoing are currently the current flexibilities under Appendix K sort of supersede them. So that's why we're waiting to train onto the new regs about flexibilities made permanent. Okay, so we do have as a guest, we have invited Mason Campbell, who's working with Central Intake, and we're going to keep an eye out for him. I'm actually looking for.
He was having a hard time joining, right? Is he here? Because
he's here.
I
Okay.
made him a panelist already, so
Okay.
whenever you're up for it, Mason, you can hit your little microphone in the corner of your control panel and you should be able to unmute yourself. I might be able to help you with that too if I get a second to.
Okay. Go ahead, Mason. You can unmute yourself if you're ready. You can share your camera if you're ready. It shows on our screen that you're self-muted, so.
I'm going to be brave and unmute him and see what happens. It should give him a warning.
I'm not seeing him anymore.
He's in the staff tab.
Okay, now I see him again. Okay.
There you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I don't see the mute. I don't see the camera. I'm just like, oh.
Do you want me to turn your camera on too? Let me see if I can do it.
I'm sorry if you.
Are you ready? You better. I hope you're decent.
Yeah, that's why I want to ask. I was like, I hope he can hear me tell him that I'm going to turn his mic on. I think it should send a request. Okay, good.
There
You're
are.
here. Welcome.
Can you see me? I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
No, you're good. It's not you. It's a totally different format, so we get that it's always a little quirky, and I think you're amongst friends. Everyone here, all the care coordinators have seen us kind of do this stuff before where we play this game of getting people connected. So don't stress about it.
Thank you. Thank you. It said I entered as a participant and listen only, so that's where I got a little nervous. But do you want me to introduce myself? I guess it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
The stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to this panel, to this webinar. My name is Mason Campbell. I recently took over a new job as the Central Intake Supervisor, and I've been at that job for just a little bit over a month. October 3rd was my first day on the new job. So I really thank you for allowing me this time and opportunity. And I just wanted to let everybody know if there's any difficulty with submitting a CIR, submitting a report of harm, anything involving central intake, I am more than happy to work with you and try to figure it out and make sure that all the information is submitted in a timely manner, and all the information, the reports have what the care coordinators want on it. So just wanted to reach out to everybody, let you know that Bobby Nave is no longer the Central Intake Supervisor. That would be me at the time, and I'm looking forward to helping and assisting as much as possible. So thank you all very much. That's me.
Awesome. Thank you, Mason. There's a question in here. Let me get to my questions, and I think it might be, you have to open it a little bit more so I can see it. I think it might be about the central intake, website, and it says, can you extend the time limit for it to like 60 minutes versus the current 30 minutes to fill it out? Does that sound accurate?
Yes, that does sound accurate. I'm not exactly sure of the time limit, if it's 60 or 30. I do know that there's been some challenges with that, and I would be happy to look to that. I'm not sure where that rule was established. I'm not sure how that got set up or why it came to ultimately 30 minutes or whatever the minutes are. But I'll be happy to take a deep dive into that and see what we can do and get a response.
Mm-hmm. There's a nice comment that says, Mason, I'm so glad you're still around. Did someone take over your old position with APS?
Not yet. They're currently trying to do that, and I believe a posting will go out soon. So
Okay.
look for that. And thank
All
you for
right.
saying nice that I'm still around. It's nice to be around.
All right. Question for Mason says, will the COVID part of the critical incident report stay? Will that stay?
As of right now, yes, the COVID part is staying.
Okay. And can we get a category for APS report so we don't have to use other? It says, this is regarding about in the result of incident choice box.
We
We could just make a note of that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that, but yeah, we can definitely look into that.
Yeah,
I'm
we can
making
make a
notes
note of-
for you guys, and we can pull the chat log and give it to Mason at the end, so it's not like, you know, Mason, don't feel like you can't, like you can't be present and have to track it all. We'll give it to you, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good idea. We have questions coming in about the actual CIR form inside, you know, when you go to the link. So Mason, do you want us to collect those and send them to you, you know, later on, or do you want to know what they are now and just so everybody knows what folks are asking?
Either way, I'd be happy to get them later on.
Okay.
And we could share them with everybody, because just so we want to make sure that everybody knows the
Okay.
answers, because I'm sure other folks have similar questions. So we could kind of send a little FAQ maybe to Mason and his team, and then we could share it with the care coordinators once we kind of get all the answers. Because that's some good questions, guys, in the chat. So if you come up with any more APS related questions, keep putting them in the chat, and we'll get those. And
there's a couple in there. We don't have to answer them now, but just so folks know, because it's the audience can't see them except the one who wrote it. Is it possible to have all fields that are completed on the CIR populate on the printable version once it's submitted? An important thing that's not on the printable format after submission is when the reporter is informed of the incident. So those are some, you know, good questions that came in. But yeah, as you're thinking about your questions about that form, go ahead and enter them into the questions area, and we'd be happy to collaborate and send them along and do our best to make an FAQ so that we all can share in the answers too. It's hard for us to answer them right now, but we want them, that's for sure. Okay.
I just have to be realistic with you guys. I can't guarantee that we can fix everything, but we can take it to the venue that and the appropriate parties that can and look at it. Some things have really changed over time. So at some point in time, we've been told this can't happen, it's not doable, but then things change and they can. So all of your questions and your suggestions for improvement are always welcome, even if we cannot always deliver on them. We really do want them because it's a good indicator to us that we might be able to, tune things up over time.
Okay, great.
Can I just say one other thing? I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just wanted to let everybody know also that, Central Intake Hub is in Anchorage, and that's not changing. But I'm based in Fairbanks, so just so you know, as far as geography-wise, I'm in Fairbanks. Central Intake Hub is in Anchorage, and my telephone number for here in Fairbanks is 907-451-3187, just in case you need to get a hold of me directly.
Thank you, Mason.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, well, great. I'm so glad that you could be here. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with our care coordinator community here right now?
No, I don't think so. I have a tremendous amount of respect for care coordinators, and you guys do an amazing job, so thank you. And Keep up the good work.
Mason, can you give us your number one more time so I can put it in the chat, please? Sorry, I missed it.
Yeah, sorry. 907-451-3187.
Thank
Hey,
you.
whoever's sharing the screen, the agenda disappeared. Thanks.
All right,
you, guys.
awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, so next we have our Harmony, talking about Harmony with editing the provider record. Did you want to go ahead and talk about that?
Do you guys remember the last time we met and got together? I showed you how to edit a provider record. Well, we have been able to tell that many of you have not done that yet. So Kat is sending an email blast, or maybe already has, refreshing you with the instructions.
I will.
Okay, well, expect to get info blasted on that again. And, you know, if you're not accepting clients, right? I'm not accepting clients. It's okay not to edit your record. But if you are accepting clients and you want to specify which types of waivers you accept, please take the time to do that. And we also really need you to start thinking about when you certify that you're going to serve different locations. Imagine a world where you are going to fly to that location, take a boat to that location, and that your certification records are accurate, because that's where we're going for creating the resources to give families, and we really want to give them a much narrower result versus like everything. So really important that you focus on your agency. You can do both your agency and your individual care coordination, but when we're giving out resources to families, we want to give them agencies so that if they contact a larger agency, they've like contacted like 6 care coordinators at once versus calling 6 separate care coordinators. So that is something that we're still hoping to continue to get your help with and work on. And so we'll probably be reminding you about it again in December, to make sure that that is, you know, that we're caring for that, because we're really wanting to leverage that as a tool. So that's one piece of it. The last time we talked, we also mentioned about rich text formatting, like, oh, we're going to take it away and so it'll be plain and it'll be so much better. Well, we learned a lot by implementing that internally first, and that it does a lot of very messy things. So we're holding on actually implementing that. We're waiting to completely take away all the rich text formatting. But to ensure a smooth transition, we really recommend that you avoid doing the things that you see on this InfoShare agenda, like the bolding and the underlining and making big fonts and colored fonts. Try to avoid doing that in the different areas that you can do that in Harmony, because it literally spits code into anything in the system before, after those kind of like font changes. And so it will really help in your future to have like a support plan details form, right, where you do all of your narrative, and it's doesn't have a bunch of weird font like code, like programming code in it. So start transitioning away from bolds and underlines and highlights. And the thing that's good about that is it is more ADA friendly and consistent. So there's some good things about it. So that is a big thing in the long term, just to like as a best practice. And then finally, on saving issues, you've gotten an e-alert about saving, you've gotten reminders from Kat about saving, and we have partially fixed the issue. It's still happening, and you know, they're really like the internal SDS teams that are part of like checking all this stuff have been working really hard on trying to identify what's happening. And it's not easy to sort out. So they're still working on it. What I want to make sure you guys have is, do you have the Word template for your support plan? It's a support plan worksheet. I think Kat may have sent it out as a resource for you. Please leverage that so that you're not writing in Harmony and then something happens to your work and you lose it. Please use a template to make that happen. So that's all the reminder or the Harmony kind of things that we had going on. For reminders, we have the NFLOC 04 and the CFC 06 applications are required now. All the other like supplemental, like all the other versions, they're retired. It's now just the NFLOC 04 application and the CFC 06 application. And Kat, did you want to talk a little bit about testing?
Yeah, there's a group of care coordinators, I believe there's 25 or so care coordinators who responded to my email saying they're interested in testing the Harmony NFLOC 04 and CFC 06 forms. So that started last week. There's been some really good feedback from those who have tried to use the forms so far. And I kind of collect that feedback and I also send it to Kimberlina and Jordan, who are in the CAP unit and who are responsible for kind of creating those forms and working with them. So we are, we are gathering feedback. I don't know if there's going to be changes to those forms yet, but there's a large number of care coordinators kind of using those forms, at least hoping to test them out. So that's really exciting. And again, so far the feedback's been really positive. I think it's also really nice that you guys get to kind of see the forms and use them before we roll them out for everybody to use. We might have other projects coming up with other forms that need to be tested, so stay tuned for more emails. But yeah, that's what's been going on. It's great. It's been really nice to have you guys be a part of kind of seeing those forms and testing them out and finding issues with them or just providing feedback about their functionality.
So it looks like some of you guys are saying that you really love that it's electronic, so that's awesome. I did just drop the support plan worksheet template into the handouts file into the webinar. Some of you are kind of talking about, I've already done the cutting and pasting. I already put it into Harmony. Well, you should be okay then. I think that if you, with these save issues, you're going to be doing a lot better off than someone that's writing their full plan for the first time. That's where, as a trainer, I'm worried about someone writing a full narrative in there. If it's already in there and you're just doing some small adjustments, tweaking what's going on with what's happened in the past year, you're probably going to be okay. The real key to this is save often. Like we started at the very beginning of onboarding, save at each one of those sections, in your plan details form. Just every time you hit a new section, just save it, even if it takes a while for it to do that process. So I just, acknowledging that your hard work that you've put in isn't wasted, and you don't need to read template things if it's already in and you're duplicating it. But if you are starting from scratch, which many, you may have an initial plan or something like that, then I would encourage you to use a template just and avoid writing straight into Harmony so you don't lose your work. So that takes us to adding plan services and using the cost of support plan report. So we need you to put in plan services for AppKs and transitional amendments now, because the paper overview form is being retired. Now, many of you have probably had an experience at some point in time as a career where SDS has told you, just give us an updated overview sheet. We are actively working on figuring out how to make that work. We're coming up with materials for you on that. So if you're kind of sweating that, know that we're sorting that out. And then we have that video still on YouTube, and we just put up another YouTube video on word merges, which is kind of a feature that's been in place for a long time. Internally, we use it all the time, but we're now starting to transition it so it's useful to our partners, our external partners. And so we did a quick video on that feature because it can be used in forms, which some of our forms groups, our form testers are using. And we're looking at how to use it for pulling out certified providers. So that's coming in the works. We'll give you a little bit more information on how you can pull out personal information for a client for certain provider types. So other updates that we have going on, the short form is still in process. CFC is going through an internal update that's still in process. And then Kat, do you want to talk about all of the info documents that like you've been really developing?
Sure.
That we've been like kind of prepping out?
So we know that DPA denials are an issue, and I'm working with DPA to kind of get more information about what we can do on our end and what you guys can do on your end to streamline that process. And I think I have everything pretty finalized. I just need to put some final touches on it before we share it. So we'll have some good information for you guys, I think. That might help. We'll have also information about amendments and when amendment is needed. I know there's been a lot of provider number changes recently, and there's been a lot of questions about, do I need to do an amendment? Do I just submit a cost sheet? So we're working with both the review teams from IDD and from review and from the CAP units and to kind of get more information for you guys so that it's super clear for everybody, including us, and so that we are consistent in when amendments are needed and when they're not needed. And I'm also working on eMUD resources. So we know the eMUD lack of providers and lack of services is kind of hurting everybody, and everybody's concerned about that. So I am working on a resource kind of guide of outside of the waiver, what are the available eMUD resources and funding sources. So I'll have that to you guys probably the next couple of weeks or so. I want to say middle of November, I'll have that finalized. So there's kind of a lot of work internally going on into resources and gathering information that's outside of the waiver and kind of making sure you guys have more things to use that you could help clients with and that we could use. So I think those are the three things that I've been working on. I don't know if I'm missing anything. It's been busy, guys. If I'm forgetting something.
I think those are the ones that are like cooking, that we have cooking, and then we have stuff like I feel like we have stuff that's getting prepped. So those are cooking and are about to be pulled out of the oven and given to you. But there are a few, I think, that are on the counter that we're going to work on. Kara, you have done a lot of we're kind of prepping all the stakeholder engagement stuff on YouTube. Did you want to talk people through about some of the resources that they may want to pass out? They either may want to watch themselves or forward on to their clients?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So we have videos up on our YouTube channel, and I would say if you haven't liked and subscribed already, to please go ahead and do that. That way you can find all these great new videos that are coming up, especially the short instructional ones that relate directly to your practices in Harmony. But there are some interesting videos up now that are about stakeholder engagement. And what this means is that people any Alaskan who has an interest in these topics is welcome to watch the video, and the video explains how to submit feedback. And this is sort of a new practice regarding when we introduce new proposed regs. So there is the top bullet under it says rate rebasing. There's a rate rebasing video that's very well, it explains very well what rate rebasing is and what it's based on, what it's for. So I think that that would be a good video to check out yourself. Of course, you could share that with any provider who has questions about rates, and you can share it with anybody, even if the people you serve and families have those questions too. I think one of the newest ones is the eradication of the DD wait list. A recent meeting that was held about that to explain the fact that our legislature has asked that we develop a plan to eradicate the DD wait list within the next 5 years. And that goes through all of the details regarding plans to eradicate and explains initial thought process around that. And then there's one about general relief regulations, and looking for people's feedback about the general relief program, as well as adult protective services regulations and mandatory. There's a video geared towards anybody, any Alaskan interested. And there's a video geared towards our mandatory reporter community. So I would encourage you to go ahead and view those if you find any of them of interest, and to pass them along. Also, to remind you to check out our calendar, we did add a CEH webinar, meaning you can get credit for that one, about home maps and eMods, and you can register right from the training calendar, and it is in December. I believe it's December 6th. So you can go ahead and do that if you are interested in that topic. And a couple questions here. Let's see, let me scroll up a little bit. Let's see if I can catch these most recent questions. Okay, there's a question that's addressed to CAP, as it's okay for us to all think about it here. Is it possible to request eMods be provided by contractors that are not Medicaid providers if none are available in the area? Also, is it possible to request adaptive technology in the home to be paid for through eMod funds? So, okay, the eMod vendor, if you will, needs to be certified and enrolled with Medicaid in order to be reimbursed with waiver funds. If you know of a contractor in the area that is not currently a provider, my best thought on that is to ask them if they would like to learn about becoming a provider and then potentially become a provider for eMods. They could apply for certification and enrollment. Right now, there is not a structure to, sort of subcontract with others who are not Medicaid providers right now. It's not part of the home and community-based waiver basic rules. So that's my best thought on that, is we would encourage them to become a provider. Then you can also refer them to any of us. I'd be happy to talk to a provider about that, or maybe even our provider certification team. They could also answer questions for that potential provider. And then adaptive technology, again, the rules around the home and community-based waiver are pretty set. It really isn't right now something that is included in eMods. I would say that you would probably be one of the people who'd be interested in our home maps and eMod webinar, because home maps is a little bit more in alignment with that, with adaptive technology for the home. There is also, there's other adaptive technology places where you can learn about what a person might use in their home. And help me remember, because it's flying out of my brain. What's the local one? Does anybody on our team remember our local
It's not SAIL.
tech?
It's not SAIL, is it? I'm thinking of. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm forgetting.
We'll find them.
No, I just worked on it too. I don't remember.
Okay. So while we're looking at that, trying to remember, there's another question here. And did any of us want to add
Everyone
to that?
is saying
Atla. See?
Atla. Oh man, all of these great minds.
Smarter than
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Atla. So they're a great resource. We've called upon them too for all of our talk about making our documents accessible and the different technologies somebody might use to perceive a website or a digital document. But they're a great resource as well. So I would say that Atla would be good. Does the Home Maps eMod training have updates since 2 years ago? Yes, it will have updates. I'm just beginning to work on that particular training with the presenter from Home Maps. So I don't have like a specific list of what's different yet, but things have changed and it's always good to come back to training and learn. And you can get CEH for it. Question says, do we get CEH for the videos? If so, how do we document? So our videos on YouTube that are just videos like there, we do not offer CEH for those because I don't have any way to track that. We do have internal trainings that, you go through and you answer a quiz and things like that to get credit for it. But right now today, we don't offer CEH from us for our videos. If your agency, even if you're an agency of one, I'm just going to say agency, if you're just like the sole proprietor and you're the agency, if you hold your own in-service, and I know that doesn't make a lot of sense if I'm my own person, my own sole proprietor, but if you're holding an in-service, then you would create your own documentation of engagement with this content as an in-service under your agency. And the rules about the right kind of documentation are going to be found in the Care Coordinator Conditions of Participation. So if you go to that document and you look up the training part, which is probably 3 pages into it, then that is how you can create an in-service for your own agency and engage in training content and create your own documentation of that to submit for CEH for certification.
But I just want to caution you guys, like those 5-minute videos wouldn't cut it, because they'll probably ask us, like PCC will ask us
Right.
if that counts, and we'll be like, it's a 5-minute video, even in learning engagement of like you spending 25 minutes with it. That's a half-hour CEH at most. So kind of like keep scale in mind. We have to be able to pass the red face test, right? Like, I got an hour CEH for watching a 15-minute video. Probably not.
But also the second part to that, guys, you got to remember, we cannot give a time on those. And on your CEHs, you have to have something that shows how much time has been done in order for certification to accept it. Mm-hmm. So when you're looking at it, whenever you're doing your CEHs, think about making sure you get a time that can be put on your certificate, and that on videos we cannot. So thank you.
Thank you. And you wouldn't list us as your trainer. You would list yourself. And if you have somebody else, if you have somebody delivering you CEH, and you're developing your own in-service, you would list that as the trainer. So you can include our content in your own in-service is basically what we're trying to say. And you'll need to say who, the topic, how it was relevant to your work. You'll have to have the time that was, that you spent doing it, and some sort of proof of engagement with it, like a certificate or a statement or something like that says that you did that in service.
So
okay.
follow-up questions, people are asking, like, well, are you going to do continued education hours for full lives? Most definitely. We'll do that.
Yeah.
But when we do a CEH, like, you're going to get a certificate. Like, for these info shares, you get an email that's a certificate. Like, we will produce you a document. Those YouTube videos are not really for that. They're really just to give you a quick resource when you're being directed to do something, that you have something that you can watch at like 11:30 at night, and just pause
Yeah.
and watch it like you do.
Yeah, we're still going to continue to do full lives, and you can still engage in full lives for your recertification training. Just stay tuned on that. That's in April 2023. So that's different than what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've reached the end of our listed agenda here, and it's 2:41. Do we have other questions and feedback that you would like to pose to us here that we can help with? We'll keep an eye on our questions box.
And of course, if you come up with questions afterwards, you could shoot us an email.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Here's a good one. Will full lives be in person next year? Full lives is planned to be an in-person and digital streaming event. So hybrid event. Those who can attend in person may attend in person, and those who wish to attend via streaming can attend via streaming. That is the plan.
Yay.
Yes.
So someone's asking about the DPA denials. Kat has developed a resource to kind of talk through that and best practices. It's getting finalized as we speak. So, that's pretty close. That's one of them that's almost done cooking.
Question says, I have been learning sign language online. Could that count toward my CEH? Great question. That, like other kinds of education that you do online, like if people are taking courses that relate to your work as a care coordinator, it could be counted as CEH. You need to bring forth a completion document that has the topic, the duration of time that you spent in it, and the instructor, so that it's in a verification of some kind, like a completion. I think I said that already. A completion document, so that you can keep that and give that to certification as proof of your, completion of that training, as long as it relates to the work that you're doing. Okay, so I can imagine that sign language would probably relate to the work that you're doing. That opens it up to a lot of things, like maybe you're taking business courses or something like that. If that is helping you do your work, then it's potentially able to be counted for CEH. Okay. A couple of questions about CFC. We are still developing CFC training. We're starting with our internals. Of course, it is a work in progress. I don't currently have a date range of when CFC training will be available to our care coordinator community, but just know that we are working very hard at nailing this topic down to be able to offer to you.
And if you're having CFC struggles, reach out to care coordination support, and we can work on your case with you to make sure that it goes as smoothly as possible in whatever issue that you're encountering with CFC.
All right, question says, if a person only wants PCA but none of the other CFC services, but they are on the waiver, do they still need to apply for CFC? A person may apply for PCA separately still. They do not have to apply for CFC. The main distinction here is that if I have CFC, I have a care coordinator, I meet level of care, nursing facility level of care, or ICF, IID level of care, or IMD level of care, and I have a care coordinator. So if I only receive, CFC, but not a waiver, then I have a care coordinator. And that is intended to help our population who can benefit from a care coordinator, having a care coordinator, but they're not opting to get any services from the waiver, a waiver, okay? But people can still, even if they have a waiver, they can still just apply for PCA or PCS outside of CFC. In that case, the entire journey and engagement with PCS is through the agency. Okay, so they'll have to work with the agency on the one hand for their PCS stuff, and they'll be working with their care coordinator for their waiver stuff. Or they can apply for CFC and work with their care coordinator basically for both. It says, I see CFC is getting an internal update on the agenda. Did I miss anything? No, you didn't miss it. It's pretty simple. We are sort of retooling our CFC understandings, and we always start with our staff and we start with our processes internally to see what we can do to reduce duplication, and basically make access to these services easier. And when I say that, there's about 100 steps or 200 steps or more from A to B with that. But that's basically where we are right now. All right. Don't have more updates past that. What about doing attestations? When will those end? Just trying to plan for the future. We do not have a word on when attestations will end. In the beginning of our time together today, we did talk about the public health emergency. That is all I have to go on. We have to go on, and you can, I'll move the document so you can see it. The beginning of our session here. And just give me a sec here. And it should be up to the top again. All right, that gives the essence of what we talked about earlier. Other questions? All right, I'm just reading, hang on.
There's one that is related to the DSM that I had sent. So it's a ISW to IDD question, and that comes up every now and then. So if somebody is on ISW and they get pulled for IDD, the best solution is to submit the IDD application. So submit the initial IDD application, and then the IDD team will review it, and then they'll look at the last level of care that was done, they'll look at the scores, and they will make a determination to see if they need to do a new ICAP or if they could use the last ICAP or the last level of care that was done for IDD. And so this is done kind of one-on-one, on a case-by-case basis. So there's not like a set solution saying, hey, if you submit it, you won't have to do another assessment. But the intake assessor, which is usually Joanna, she'll take a look at it. She, if she needs to staff it, she'll staff it. And chances are they'll be able to use the last level of care that was done, especially if it was pretty recent, like in the last couple of months or so, they'll be able to use the last level of care for IDD, given that your evaluation is still within the 36 months. So best kind of direction on that is submit the initial IDD application and let the IDD team kind of take a look at it, and they will let you know if they could use the assessment that was done, or if they'll be scheduling a new ICAP or anything like that. So.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Question says, when do folks need to get the signed forms to SDS? Is there a deadline? I'm guessing, I'm not sure what that's about unless
I think it's about
attestation.
attestation. Yeah,
okay.
I think it's about the attestations. Guys, just know that we're aware that you have to have all of your documents ahead before the deadlines. So when it comes to messaging out the fade of different flexibilities, we're expecting to have that information out like with you having time to adjust. We recognize that is a piece here. So if there's going to be a transitional period where we'll inform you when it's time to start preparing for that. So I do like how you guys think though, because you think like me and like, when do I need to start making these changes to my practice? And so I really appreciate that. Just know that it's essentially anything with AppK, any of these flexibilities that were not made permanent, we're going to make it a big deal because it's going to be a adjustment back. And so we need to make sure we're all in it together and figuring it out. That's one of the reasons why we've held off on doing the flexibilities made permanent, because it's like telling you guys how things were, how things are, and how things are going to be. And we're trying to make sure that it's really well mapped for you. And then it makes sense. I love that you guys are thinking about it, because it is going to be a lot to adjust to. So we want to be thoughtful about it.
There was a question about the extension of the public health emergency. I just wanted to remind us to check your e-alerts, in this case, an archived one from October, which tells about where we get that information. And it's effective October 13th. The COVID-19 public health emergency was extended, and the extensions are up to 90 days. So this is why we're citing our 6 months after the presumed declaration of the end of it in increments as time goes on. And that is why we're talking about the dates that we're talking about here today. All right, so you can always check that, check your e-alerts for the public health emergency information that we have and what we go by.
And to clarify on the attestations, there's no need for you to go back and get anything signed. I know that was something that was once communicated and we kind of went back and forth on that, but there's no need for you to go and get anything re-signed or resubmitted. I know there's probably some miscommunication around that. So we are accepting attestations in place of kind of wet signatures, right? But you do not have to go back.
Or digital.
Or digital, right? You don't have to go back and get anything signed and submit. That's not the direction. So you don't have to worry about that to get that signed. And we do have kind of the AppK approval from CMS saying that attestations will be accepted during the public health emergency.
I'm just thinking, I'm wondering if I think, Kara, did we update the electronic signatures resources with attestations too and circulate them? I thought we did.
I think we did, and I think we gave it
Okay.
out in one of these sessions. It's probably in our recording, one of our recordings.
So I think what I'm taking from this session is that I'll make sure that we grab that resource and Kat can disseminate it for you. And like, as far as, what's acceptable for signatures at this time. So you have like the current, like what are the rules we're playing by right now? Because Kat's right. When we first started, I think it was like the first 2 weeks, we were kind of just, people weren't really sure how long this would go. It would only be for like a month, maybe it was 2 months. I don't think people really expected it to go forward for 3 years. So know that you are not out of bounds by asking these questions, because you were told them at different times, right? You heard it, it's real. We just have to make sure that we're kind of cleaning up some of these communications. So keep asking them, please, because I think it's worth the exploration.
And I see what you've written about needing signatures to pass audit and things like that. These are things that we've brought up, on our provider's behalf for when we change out of our Appendix K, flexibilities. and the impact on our providers. So this topic of needing signatures for audit is definitely in the conversation. So. Okay. Yeah, there's questions because we send out all the current requirements for care coordinators. We can work on that. We can work on clarifying a clarifying document. We'll have to vet it a little bit, you know, but we can certainly work on that.
That's one, it might take a minute. The fast answer is to go to your conditions of participation. That's the like, go to that right now, and that'll give you the for surezies right away. But if we're looking for an info document
on flexibilities, an update on flexibilities.
I think it's related to flexibility, right?
Okay, on the flexibilities themselves. Yeah. Yeah, there's some different, especially with what's made permanent. I can see how what you guys are thinking about for the long haul. So yeah. It's almost time, and you guys are dropping great questions, ideas, and thoughts in here. You know, you know, I get where you're coming from on a lot of these different things. Know that we want to be responsive to your needs and continue to support you, because in supporting you, we're supporting Alaskans. So please continue to reach out, and we'll do our best to help you as much as we can.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and call it. It's 2 minutes till. Thanks for attending and participating with us here. And thanks, Delight and Cassandra and Kat and Anna and Mason for joining in and helping us understand more about these topics. We'll get back with you with an email that verifies your CEH, and we will work on your questions here. Hopefully we've done some good work for you answering them in live time as well. And we'll post our video. Give us time to get that done, because it does take us quite a while to post a long video like this, and give us about a day or maybe 2 days for the email too. In the meantime, if you have questions, we're here for you. SDS training at alaska.gov, care coordination support at alaska.gov. All right, thanks again, everybody. We'll go ahead and close. Goodbye for now.